get that intro going. And so do 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 do. Yeah, that's our music. Oh, and I got another window open because I'm such a pro. There we go. Let me close that. All right. So welcome everybody to the Orville finale episode of Nerd Fights. Can you believe Orville season 3 and possibly the entire series is now officially a thing of the past?
I mean, I'm very happy for that. I'm like, this season was torture to watch, and if it should come back for season 4, I don't know if I can tune in for it because this season was rough. There was like one good episode out of 10. Everything else was just awful.
Well, I would say this, at least if there is an Orville season 4, it would be highly likely that Seth MacFarlane would not be the showrunner.
I don't think he was the showrunner on this season either, was he? I thought that was his partner was the one doing all the showrunning.
I don't know. Well, I thought it was him, but I could be wrong. I know that he wrote a lot of it. He directed a lot of it. But
Brandon Braga wrote most of the episodes, if I'm not mistaken. Good old Star Trek Brandon Braga.
And that shows a lot in there, too. I know some people like to worship Brandon Braga. I'm definitely not one of them.
Me neither.
Danny, I know you're probably... Oh, by the way, for those of you that are probably wondering why all the candles burning behind me, those are the lights of victory because we got the egg salad sandwich.
That's right, Kadish. You owe us monies.
I know, man. Like I was genuinely surprised when that scene showed up because I was like, wow, they actually paid that off. Now, I will say that if they had set that up in episode 1 of the season and waited a full 10 episodes to pay that off, I would have had more respect for them. Yes. But I was convinced that we were never going to see that sandwich again, but I was wrong.
Yeah. And here's the
you know what we didn't see? You know what we didn't see again? Admiral Creepy McCreeperson. So I won 2 bets this season.
We did not see Admiral Creepy. Well, but we knew that as soon as they said they were never going back to creepy space. So, which was so stupid to bring that up and then drop it. You know, the one interesting, really new thing that they brought in, and then they just dropped it like a hot potato.
They definitely left a lot of different threads that they had set up this season kind of hanging. But according to IMDb, Brandon Braga was the showrunner along with David A. Goodman.
Okay.
So,
never mind.
Tom Constantino was the guy I was thinking of. He's Seth MacFarlane's producing partner.
So then, but the one problem I have with the egg salad sandwich is that means that the massive mega super weapon was developed, deployed, stolen, and an entire war fought in less than 3 months.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everything that happened from the moment of the time travel episode to the finale was within a 3-month time span.
Yeah.
That was like, what, 4 episodes? Something like that?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I just loved how Gordon was like, man, I'm happy already.
Yeah. But I mean, it was a great moment. I'm not berating that moment because I thought that was honestly the best moment of the episode. But at the same time, when you stop and think about it, it's like, well, wait a minute. Everything from the time travel episode to now was in 3 months. That's wow. Okay. So let's real quick.
The time travel episode was episode 6. And so 4 episodes later was 3 months. So during that time.
So almost half of the season was 3 months.
Yeah, they discovered the Kaylon with emotions. They kind of like screwed over the Moklins, and ejected them from the Union. And then they ended the war with the Kaylon with their super weapon.
The Moklins developed an alliance with the Krill.
Yeah. And then they had a wedding.
That in and of itself would have taken, a very long time. But, generally speaking, multinational agreements don't happen overnight. But
well, if you think about it, each episode could have happened a month after the previous one.
Right.
So up to the payoff, because there were 4 episodes. So who knows? Anyway, who cares? This is a show where they hit out inside of a black hole at the end of one of the seasons. So
that's true. Anyway, so let's real quick. We're going to do our top down kind of overall thoughts on the episode, and then we're going to get into the nitty gritty of it. So starting with you, Kadish. What did you think of this episode from a top-down perspective?
So this was pretty much exactly what I was expecting from this season, where they kind of blew their load with all the great stuff in the penultimate episode, and this episode was back to their boring, stupid, nonsensical, unimpactful melodrama.
Bullshit.
I had a really hard time getting through the first half of this episode. But after, I would say after Isaac invited the Kaylon to the wedding, I feel like the episode picked up, and I actually started enjoying it more because stuff was actually happening. But the first half was just ladies' wine night, schmaltzy melodrama, and a bunch of setup for side stories that ultimately didn't really matter. So I just felt like this was a weak end to a very weak season. I don't feel like it set up anything for the future. I don't feel like it was a good closing chapter for the series, if this is indeed the last season. It just felt very meh. I finished the episode. I was like, I don't care. And I'm glad that it's over, so I don't have to force myself to watch this terrible show anymore. This season really killed the Orville for me. 1 good episode out of 10. I can't abide. The dude does not abide with this season. So, I feel like it was just a very kind of episode that should have been mid-season as opposed to the season finale. But it doesn't surprise me that this was the season finale, because all season long, the Orville has just been kind of moseying along, being like, I don't care what we're doing. We don't have any real structure going on here. We're just going to kind of do our own thing. And it was pretty much what I expected, a big disappointing finale.
All right. And Danny, first question. Did you tear up at the end of the episode?
No, not at all.
Yes.
No. For what?
Really? Well,
no tears.
For what?
The final goodbye, the song, the whole heartfelt. No. This is the end.
No, the song was my least favorite part of the episode. I will say though. I will say
Double or nothing, Michael.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You got off.
We had a bet going as to whether.
Yeah, we were going double or nothing on the bet.
No, not this one. In fact, this one, I would say I'm surprised, but nothing surprises me anymore. I love this episode. This was my favorite episode. It felt the most like Orville.
It's another Claire and Isaac episode, which you seem to like for some reason.
Which I love. Yeah, Claire is so fun. Jesus. No, I loved it. I thought there was humor. I laughed out loud several times during the episode. I was I found myself mad that it took 10 episodes for me to watch. This was literally the only episode this season that felt like the Orville. Maybe because Charlie wasn't in it. I don't know, but everything was funny. The stuff that was supposed to be funny was funny. You brought up the Kaylon, Isaac inviting the Kaylon, and his dumbass invites them all. I thought that was hilarious, especially when they showed up and Ed was like, okay, let home base know so people don't freak out or whatever. No, I love this episode. I was bummed. I thought it was actually very well done because, it's called Future Unknown, which is kind of meta. And it was, if it's the final episode of the series, it's a nice way to end it. And it's also the kind of, it doesn't have to be the end of the, you know what I mean? Like it was, I don't know. I like this episode a lot. This was my favorite episode because it felt the most like the Orville. So that's my overall. Did I break you, Michael? Are you there?
No, you didn't. No.
Oh, okay.
So I will actually agree with you on one point, Danny, and that's that I do think this is the episode that felt the most like the Orville, in that the humor was back in this episode, more like classic Orville.
Yeah, and everybody had moments. I mean, look at the Bortis, like was great.
Yeah,
like, this is.
But, and this is a big old Bertha butt here.
Kind of like Cece's. It's a big old butt.
But the problem with this is that it was humor without a story. And so that's where I had a problem, is that nothing happened of any consequence in this episode, except that we had 3 unrelated stories that ultimately were meaningless in the grand scheme of things. This is the very definition of a filler episode as the season finale. And this should have been the season, the mid-season episode.
Well, I mean, don't you see why they made it this? I mean, like I get what you're saying, but I also understand why they made this the season finale, because they don't know if they're going to get a season 4, and it was like the least.
Well, I think it
had.
It actually typifies the whole thing. It's padding. It's padding on the end of the season so they can get 10 episodes out of it. And just like if you look at episode 2, there's all the padding to make the episode longer. That's unfortunately a problem with this series this season, is there's lots and lots and lots of padding. And unfortunately, the padding that is this episode happens to be the most Orville-esque bits of the series, with the sandwich.
And we talked about that a lot.
We'll get to some of the details of it.
Yeah, this season was like, I think you and I both agree on this. I think it really hurt the show to not have the restriction of typical cable television time constraints.
Right.
Like they just let too much stay in that would have normally hit the cutting room floor, I think. And I think, you and I have talked about that before. So I will concede that. I will agree with that. For sure.
All right. And I would agree with what Indy Tiger said, that it felt like a day in the life episode, like Data's Day, but that's not what you do as a season finale. There's nothing wrong with a day in the life kind of episode, but you don't do that as a finale. That's the very antithesis of a finale. And the other problem that I have with this episode is that it also exemplifies, it's the icing on the cake, if you will, of the continued streak of hard feminism, of
how'd you see that in this episode? What did you see that with in this episode? I didn't see there. That's what I loved about this. There was no political agenda. There was no religious agenda. There were back to stupid jokes. Dr. Finn chewing out Lamar was freaking awesome. I don't know. There was a
tell me in this particular episode, tell me all the moments in the episode where people were awesome.
Well, I just gave you one with Claire being awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I know they blew their wad with the commercial or whatever, but that scene with Isaac and Kelly, I'm sorry, it was hilarious. Even though I'd already seen it, I still laughed out loud.
But here's the problem.
So can I hop in real quick?
Yeah.
This episode, more than any episode this season, really emasculated Mercer. They made him out to be a complete fool. Like, he's the captain of the ship, right? He's supposed to be the leader. And basically he was just, constantly dressed down by the women on the crew this episode. They made him completely useless. And that was kind of surprising to me. I mean, they kind of played it off as humor, but it was very much that.
Show me any
an
other
example.
finale. Show me any other
understand.
finale where the captain of the ship is treated like a fool.
I
How
mean,
is he
Danny,
treated like a fool in this
there was the dress scene.
Is there any moment
General
in this
dresses.
episode where Mercer is not treated like a fool?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know, let
he's a
James
complete
say
clown in this entire episode, and they don't make any bones about it.
I
And
like
you can
the
play
part
that off.
with the
Hold
dress.
on. You can play that off as Mercer just like not understanding women very well. But at the same time, he's like this guy who's supposedly, brokered a deal with like the Krill and brought peace to the Kaylon War and all this other stuff. But the entire season, this isn't just an episode 10 problem. This is a problem throughout the season where basically Mercer has been completely useless and emasculated. And a second thing I want to point out here is that this entire episode, and I'm going to be very careful about how I describe this, it starts off with a same-sex rap without the E fantasy for like the first 10 minutes, right?
Mhm.
And it's just like, I was watching it and I get that it's like the Moklin, like they can get away with a lot of Moklin stuff in this, but at the same time, I was just kind of like, this is a little
I was very
weird.
uncomfortable with that whole scene.
Yeah, it was very strange.
I did not like the Moklin scene at the beginning. I thought that it would be, you know what, if they had the whole thing where they disrobed and they ran off into the woods and then everybody stood around just kind of looking around and feeling weird, and then after a minute the two of them came back into their view and said, "We have consummated," or something. That would have been fine. But to have them beating the crap out of each other and stuff on camera was
it was very much a weird rap fantasy, and it was just.
I
like,
thought it was funny, especially with Gordon later saying like, it doesn't include sexual assault or something like that.
Well,
Like,
you know what? Let me ask you this. Do you think it would have been funny to watch two women beating the tar out of each other?
I don't know if it would have been funny, but it would have been personally satisfying.
Okay, well, I don't know what to even say.
That was a joke, Mike. Jesus.
Well, no, but do you think it would be funny? Well, I'm asking a serious question. Do you think it would be funny to watch two women beating the crap out of each other?
I mean, we
aggressively throwing rocks at each other's head, tackling each other, punching each other, slamming each other's heads into the ground, hardcore fighting beating the living crap out of each other.
Anything can be
and
funny
in a sexual manner.
It could have been, let alone forget funny, could have been hot. I like Anima Confusa.
No, stop joking about it. I'm being serious.
It's a jokey show, so I'm not going to stop.
No, but but you know what? I know, and I'm asking you in all seriousness, is that hilarious to you to watch two women? Because the way they filmed it, it was not a joke. They were seriously beating the crap out of each other.
I mean, I don't have a problem with the violent aspect of it, like them beating the crap out of each other. I do have a problem with the idea that like one of them has to take the other one by force. I mean, it's basically rap, right? It's a hardcore rap, and it's
that's why Gordon was like, without all the sexual assault later in the episode. I thought.
Well, I mean, they made a joke about it later on, but
right,
Danny,
but just because they make a joke out of it doesn't justify it.
Yeah, this is a subtext thing. It's like, what were they saying with this scene to open up the season finale? In a way, you could look at that as a metaphor for the Orville fans in the writers' room of this show for the entire third season. It's like they just chased us down, beat us down, and then rapped us to death. So, and then the fanboys come out hand in hand. They're like, "We consummated the relationship! Yay! Season 4. Give me a break."
And then the other thing and this really bothered me through the episode, Isaac is an idiot. They emasculated Isaac of all characters.
Well, they also objectified him.
Yeah, They objectified him in the Bachelorette party, and he's a moron. He's an absolute
I did think the
moron in this
robotic
episode.
nipple tassels were pretty funny, though.
Yeah. Well, I get it that was the girls playing with their fantasy,
Yeah.
but which that on in isolation, I would have said, okay, that's funny. But the Isaac, the real Isaac, being a complete idiot, first taking Lamar's advice and simply walking up and asking Kelly.
He's not an idiot.
Sex.
He's just he's like a child. He's like innocent. Or what did Dr. Claire say? She said he was very impressionable. I love that scene with her and Lamar.
But you know what? Isaac has been with Claire long enough to know, and studied human behavior long enough to know. And in fact, he looked at the entire database of bonding for humans. He knows what fidelity is. Okay, he understands the concept. He knows that if he has sexual relations with another person, that is a violation of the very concept of marriage. And so when Lamar is telling him to go screw around, he knows that's a violation of what he's proposing.
Whoa. And first of all, someone who's been married not successfully twice, you know, from Isaac's, you know, black and white binary point of view, they're not married yet. So it's kind of like the whole bachelor party thing. Just because I slept with a stripper at my bachelor party doesn't mean I cheated on my future wife. I mean, sure, maybe it does, but in my brain, I justify it to think, no, that's the point of a bachelor party. Maybe I'm getting a little too personal there. Sorry, Mom.
I mean, from Isaac's point of view, though, like when Lamar says, if you're marrying the first person that you've been in a relationship with, you know, that's dooming your relationship ultimately because you haven't played the field. And so if Isaac's, you know, mentality just taking that information in, he's like, yeah, okay, I want to make sure that this relationship with Claire succeeds. So I should go off and follow Lamar's advice in order to ensure that like my relationship with Claire is strong. I will agree with Danny. This was the most humorous episode that we've gotten this season, but as a season finale, like this was like one of the worst season finales I think I've ever seen.
But don't you think? I mean, and also given Isaac's the way that Isaac is, and Isaac has always been very honest and open with Claire. I think Isaac would immediately go back to Claire and say, "Who do you think I should have sexual relations with?"
I mean, I like that his first choice was Kelly.
Yeah,
I would have been.
But I would see Isaac as asking Claire for advice on the subject. You know, he would say, Lieutenant Lamar has suggested that I have sexual relations with others to make sure that our relationship is successful. Who would you recommend? You know, I could, and that would actually be a funny little situation. And then she could go yell at Lamar. But I that would make more sense than for him to go so straight to Kelly. His superior officer, by the way, which would be another breach that he is well aware of, and do that. But besides that, that's not even the worst part of Isaac being a moron, because the biggest part of Isaac being a moron is Isaac knows full well where the marriage is going to take place because he's the one arranging the ceremony, and he invites the entire Kaylon armada. Okay, which makes no sense because
I thought that was funny.
Well, yeah, but you know what? They're making Isaac a moron because Isaac would have told Primary only send 475 units because that's the maximum capacity of our, you know, he wouldn't say send 4,000.
Yeah.
And you know, like I thought that when Isaac invited the entire Kaylon race, I thought that they were setting up a big misunderstanding that was going to lead to like some type of new conflict or war out of this marriage. And so I was very intrigued. And at the end, when it was just kind of like, oh, like 4,000 Kaylon ships showed up. First of all, 4,000. How did it take them so long not to conquer the galaxy and wipe out all life in the universe?
Yeah.
I mean, like there were.
Why
so
wasn't that battle a whole lot shorter in the last episode?
I know, right? Like there were so many Kaylon ships. Yeah, but the thing that bothered me the most about this episode was the Lysella story, where it was just kind of like this throwaway C story. I mean, like, it was interesting to see how the Union came about getting their prime directive, but at the same time, it was just kind of like we didn't need this subplot in the season finale. This was a subplot that could have easily been in any other episode.
Well, all right. Well, let's get through the. We're never going to get to the play-by-play here, but that, in my opinion, should have been the A plot. And I mean, we had the A plot being Isaac and Claire's wedding,
and we had another really long scene of ladies' wine night where it's just Claire and Kelly.
Was anybody?
And I forget Tala. The other girl's name, but Tala. They were just sitting there drinking wine, talking about their relationship problem. I'm like, really?
Was it just me, or in that scene, Kelly's feet were like really distracting to me in that scene? Did you notice her feet?
I did not care about Kelly's
feet. Her feet are huge. Like, she's got a toe like this long. I was just like, it was
gross.
I know, right?
No, I was not thinking about Kelly's feet.
I wasn't thinking about it. I just couldn't help see them. They were
the only thing I was thinking was, when will this scene end?
Yeah, it was very long.
They have a thing. This season of the Orville has a thing for its
women drinking wine. Yeah, that's what this show should be called. Women drinking wine.
Chatty winos in space.
You know,
my least favorite episodes this season had to do with Claire. Like, I just don't like the character of Claire.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it seems like Claire became the main character, and honestly, Ed Mercer is now a tertiary character, and he should be the main character.
Yeah, they turned Ed into a cuck on his own shit.
It felt like this season was the Kelly season. Like, she was the one driving all the action this season.
Right.
Ed barely did anything, and the stuff that he did do, he messed up.
Well, yeah, he always made terrible. Like, this whole season, he was making terrible command decisions. And I knew Orville Nation. I mean, he's a nice guy. PJ's a nice guy, but didn't know what the hell he was talking about. I knew there was no alternate reality. They're just like not acting.
It was just bad writing.
Damn sense. Yeah, it's like, you know.
Brandon Braga,
I'll admit it.
Brandon Braga doesn't know the Orville as well as he knows Star Trek. And let's be real, his writing on Star Trek was hit and miss. And so his writing on the Orville, the reason it felt like it was an alternate reality was because he didn't know the characters. And so they felt off. It seemed to me like Seth MacFarlane this season was like, I don't know if I'm going to get to do another one. So I'm going to throw all of my propaganda in here, all my agendas. I'm going to smush them into here. And then for the final episode, I'll give everybody what they really wanted. That's kind of what it felt like to me, because this was
Nobody
me like this whole episode. This whole episode felt like
it was the previous episode that everyone wanted.
No, the previous episode was good, but this one had the comedy that had been missing, that had been complaining about all season. This one, you know, from beginning.
Yeah, but you know what? Felt nobody wants an episode that spins its wheels and goes nowhere.
Yeah, other than Claire and Isaac getting
for the brain.
Claire married her vibrator. You know, Bortis and Clyden beat the crap out of each other to renew their vows. And we had Kelly proselytize the Federation gospel, giving the exact same speech that she gave back in season 1, word for word.
How awkward was it on set when Seth MacFarlane's ex-girlfriend showed up, huh? That had to be awkward. The end of the nobody. The original
Alara's cameo at the end there.
Yeah. You know, that's Seth's
he got rid of Charlie, right? So he needs to bring her back.
Yeah.
Halston Sage.
Maybe that's why they killed Charlie last episode, so they could bring Alara on. Because the two of them would
I just think it's funny that that Charlie's dead, and the episode right after brings all the humor of the first 2 seasons back. To me, I just was like, oh, that's what killed the humor, was Charlie.
Also, okay. I totally forgot about Alara. Like, I was like, oh, that character. Okay. She shows up for like half a second, and then...
Hey, man, how can you... They haven't mentioned the jar of pickles since she left. How do you forget about her? She was the whole thing behind, you can open this jar of pickles for me?
I mean, like we got her 2.0 version in Tala. It's like it's basically the same character.
That's true, but they stopped the pickle jokes. I was always bummed about that. I was like, oh, no more pickle
they
jokes.
Replaced it with an egg salad.
Well, Tala is a little bit more believable than Alara, but
hey, don't be bitter. I will take my payment in the form of a free month of.
You know who was great in this episode? You know who was great in this episode? Clyden. I loved Clyden in this episode.
Oh yeah,
he was just like so proud of everything Bortis did.
Yeah, he was just like. He reminded me of Huckleys. That's what he reminded me of.
I when we saw Bortis in the Elvis suit, that was a good moment. That was, and that's the problem. I mean, there were some genuinely funny moments sprinkled throughout this episode, but there was no story here. It
was a very boring episode, actually. For the most part.
All right, so let me get. I've just realized I have this in the wrong window. So,
well, all your viewers think I'm a shill for the Orville anyway. Even though
you are a shill for the Orville.
I've completely hated at least 2 episodes this season, at least. Like no, that one with the Lady Trump. That was the worst episode of television I've seen easily all year.
It was another story thread that we got zero resolution to.
Right, Ed's baby is still
the daughter.
The
when they showed Alara from behind, I was expecting it to be Ed's daughter.
They tried to cram way too much into this season. They introduced way too many things that got no payoff, and
they had 10 episodes, Danny. Like if they had just put in a little bit of planning, they could have structured
but they had
fantastic story.
They had 10
not only could they, but
with
they had
no
10
time constraints.
Right. So they really
had the time for 20.
That's what I was about to say. They had the time, for literally 20 episodes. They just did basically every episode was like a 2-parter next gen episode. You know what I mean? Without really needing.
If they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But instead, they just goofed around for 10 episodes and kind of threw things at the wall to see what would stick. And I mean, like the spider demons were interesting, never came back to it. Ed Mercer's daughter, that could be interesting, never did anything with it. All
Mexican Iron Man said something I think was spot on. A big problem with this show was that it tried to have its cake and eat it too. Like it wanted to be episodic, but it also wanted to tell a season-long story, and it just did a very bad job at both. And I think
you can do that. I mean, look.
No, you can, but they did it poorly in this series, this season. Which is heartbreaking. I waited 3 years for something that really. Last episode was nice sci-fi adventure action Star Wars feel, and this one was I literally. I said it at least twice. I was like, now this is the Orville I remember. This is Orville. Like, this is good. Just so much of it was funny to me. Like him bringing the banana halfway across the ship. If that doesn't say I love you to somebody, I don't know if I would do that for shooting here. Anyway, sorry.
Right. And so we start out the episode, of course, with a wonderful montage of Isaac just kind of going everywhere on the ship. He replicates a banana, which, I wonder if their replicated food tastes the same as real food.
That doesn't even enter my mind. What enters my mind is why didn't he replicate this banana way closer to her? Because he gets this banana and he goes on a truck.
Walks all the way across the ship.
Clear across the ship. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Well, I think they did that just to show off the sets one last time.
We also got a scene of Kelly kind of explaining how their society works. And with, she talked about how the turning point for Earth was matter replication.
Right.
And so, again, I'm like, why couldn't they just replicate as many weapons as they want, as many, why do they need the Moklins to build weapons for them if they can just have matter replicators create them? Why do they need to take so long with the starships if they can just have big matter replicators
Right.
pushing out starships left and right. I mean,
Yeah, but have any of
I
these
did like the
shows-
world building. I did like the world building in this episode, but at the same time, the whole matter replication thing just seems like a big Deus Ex Machina to me.
The
That's
problem
not
is the
utilized.
world building of this episode was done in season 1.
Yeah.
This is repeat world building. All right, so he replicates a banana. Helps if I'm on the right screen with the. All right, then he walks into sick bay, gives Claire the banana, goes up to the bridge, reports for duty, where of course Kelly is running things, even though Ed is there, because Kelly's the real person in charge. Yeah, so any thoughts on this little opening montage of Isaac walking all around the ship and kind of running this errand for Claire?
No, I thought it was a cute, sweet way to show that, like, in his way, Isaac loves Claire. My biggest problem with this scene is kind of my biggest problem, one of my biggest problems this season, in that look at Ed's face. Like, they just made Ed a dumbass dipshit. You know what I mean? Like, and it's
Right.
just, it's heartbreaking. Like.
Well, that goes back to the men are bad thing. And it's not just that men are bad, men are incompetent.
And how many of you dudes have had that exact same, like when he's in there with Claire and Tala for the wedding dress thing? I don't know about you guys, but I've literally had, like, I've been Ed in that. Like, I've literally had that exact same exchange. Like, I said
Well,
the
you
same
see,
thing.
that's
I like
the
them
wrong-
both. I like it all. Like, it's just like,
Well,
no, right.
but-
I'm not a starship captain. I'm an idiot. But still, though, I could relate to that scene. I thought that was fun.
I mean, every guy can relate to that scene because it's a typical dude scene. But here's the thing: it's the Michael Scott fallacy, right, from The Office. If you guys ever watched The Office, Michael Scott is a complete moron, but at the same time, he's like one of the best salesmen that the company has in that Scranton branch. And like, you see moments of brilliance from Michael Scott to kind of counterbalance all the buffoonery, where it's like he's just not someone who's ever meant to be a leader, but he was put in a leadership position when he should have just stayed as a salesman, because that's what he's really good at. Now, when it comes to Mercer kind of has the same thing, where him and Gordon have always been kind of buffoonish and silly, but they've never had the counterbalance. Like, Gordon has the counterbalance of him being an excellent pilot, like he's one of the best pilots in the fleet. But with Ed, it's like Kelly got him his command, and he's proven that he's not a very good commander. Like he's actually like really bad at the job for the most part.
He's been making
a
bunch of terrible decisions this season. Yeah.
I feel like there's no counterbalance to the buffoonery. Like if we had these scenes with him kind of flubbing the I like this dress as opposed to this other one. Like, just think, what would Jean-Luc Picard say in that situation? He's like, I like the white one, go with that.
Or he would just say, I would defer to the one that you prefer.
Yes.
I feel like he would say something and then figure out a reason to leave the room, because he was good at that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, there's just no counterbalance to Ed's buffoonery, and that's been going on this entire season.
Yeah.
Whereas in previous seasons, he did have kind of like moments where, like, he was the captain, and he saved the day and stuff like that.
He and Kelly's season. He and Kelly's characters have been way off this whole season, in my opinion.
I think if you just look at this frame right here, and you look at the look on Ed's face and the look on Kelly's face, it says it all. Ed looks like an idiot. Kelly looks like she's in charge.
Yeah.
I
can never unsee her feet, though, man. Like I don't know.
What's your thing with her feet?
I don't know. They're just huge. They're like
okay,
weird.
when we get to that scene, I'm gonna have to look at her.
It's like
feet.
that scene in Shallow Hal where the girl with the one tall middle finger or middle toe. He's like, I had to dump her, man. I had to dump her. She's gorgeous except for that one little toe.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, I couldn't get over that toe.
Bunch of freaks around here. All right, let's move on from
God,
Mr. Weirdo's obsession about Kelly's feet. All right, so we have. So here we have the Gordon
Bortis
Bortis
the bully.
thing. Yeah, so Bortis Isaac wants Gordon to be the best man in his wedding, but Bortis kind of cuts in and says,
this is the part where they explain the rap fantasy ritual.
Oh
where Gordon talks about the sexual assault. My whole thing is like, I was literally, I said this, I was like, it seemed to me that Isaac and Lamar had a closer relationship. Like,
well, they both work in engineering constantly. So.
Yeah, so I just felt like I thought it was weird that he didn't ask him.
Well, he asked Gordon initially because Gordon is the one who's considered funny by the rest of the crew, and so he was the most appropriate to give the speech at the wedding. But then Bortis cut in, and he's like, "I will take over this position."
Yeah, no, but I don't know. It just seemed weird to me because like Gordon made his issues with Isaac known fairly early on this season, and then. I mean, every time you see Isaac, like chumming up, like Lamar stood up for Isaac early on in the season. Like they're always talking and acting like I don't know. I don't know. Just as a fan, I was like bummed. I was like,
well,
you
here's
should ask
my
Lamar.
question.
I was like,
so here's the landing party.
Mm-hmm.
Where's Captain Mercer?
He's on the other side, opposite
ceremony.
them. Yeah, he's
okay. Oh, that's right. He's the one reading the stupid ceremony. Yes. All right. So, but now, remember how Claire was about doing the procedure on Topa, and how she's vocally opposed all things Moklin before, as has Kelly, as has Tala, as has Gordon. Why are they all there?
Because they're supporting their friend.
Yeah, they're supporting their friend on their massive rap battle.
Well,
I mean, they're okay.
Essentially, this is a married couple renewing their vows, and so they want to be there to support them. But it's the way in which the Moklin tradition
but you know what?
does this. That's the problem.
But Moklin tradition is also that you do sexual reassignment surgery.
So
but this is between two consenting adults, so I guess it's okay.
Yeah. Without trying to make it a thing, this gave me
if it was really a rap. If it was really a rap, I don't think they'd be supporting it.
Yeah.
Well, it is really rap because he says he must take him by force.
Yes, but he's willing to go through with it. He wants him to be taken by force.
My first laugh. I'm trying to keep it positive. My first laugh of the episode was at the end of this scene, where their heads are touching and everybody is visibly uncomfortable until Gordon just finally.
It goes on way too long. Yeah.
That was funny.
I did not.
That felt like classic Orville. That felt like classic Orville to me.
All right, so they run through the woods.
Also, the Moklin G strings, I could have.
I could have done with it. I'll be honest with you. I could have done without this whole opening. Rap.
So we have the whole rap scene, which I found quite frankly tasteless.
Why have we got it paused on this? This is a very disgusting image.
Because you thought that it was hilarious.
That looks like me in the mirror. No, I thought the ending uncomfortableness was funny, not overweight men running through the woods naked.
You said it was great, man.
If I wanted to see that, I would go.
You did want to see it. You were defending it.
You're killing me. Not okay. All right.
See, go wash out you're the one that was defending it. Hey, where are you going? You can't run away now. This is
once
your
you
favorite
see it,
scene.
you can't unsee it.
Oh, there's a great shot for you right there.
Yeah, look at that G string.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh God.
Yeah.
God.
That's
I gotta give the ladies something, Danny.
Yeah, a little something for Cece.
Okay, Jesus, go back. This is terrible.
I'll bet you Brian and Shane love this.
This should have been the only thing we saw while they were doing that, and like you could have heard them in the woods going, and that would have been plenty.
Yeah, this was questionable at best.
Yeah. I also find it questionable that Topa would be there. But, you know.
I don't think so. I think a kid seeing their parents renew their vows is perfectly fine.
There you go, Danny. There. That's what you think was great right there, right?
The Moklin man thong.
No, it was right after this because they carry this on way longer than comfortable, you know.
Yeah, Gordon's reaction was great. He's just looking around. He's like,
yeah. Well, he didn't know what else to do because they were just sitting there. It's like, how long are they going to do this? You know?
Yeah.
So that was. How
long are you going to leave it on this image?
I was thinking for the rest of the night, actually. No, this was to me the absolutely worst part of the episode, and this was all, you know, like there was no reason to have this subplot in the episode. You could have cut out the entire Bortis Clyden thing. It was only, we're at 8 minutes and 10 seconds right now, and we're pretty much done with their story. And so you could have cut that completely out. The episode would still be over an hour long. And
you can't make anybody happy. Everybody was bitching in the beginning of the season. There's not enough Bortis. There's not enough Bortis. So they put they literally inject.
The whole season was filmed before episode 1. The whole season was filmed before episode 1 dropped. So this was planned before episode 1 dropped.
Do you know if they shot these in order?
I have no idea.
No clue.
But because
I know, like, it took them a long time because of COVID. You know, they
definitely, you know, needed to get rid of COVID to film this. But I'm just saying, because the kids still looked, you know, like Ty still looked tiny, and there's no way that Ty is tiny now. I mean, like, you know, I've had kids. That kid's probably hit it. He's probably as tall as me now, you know, if not taller. But my point, though, is that we're only 8 minutes in. If you cut this stuff out, you do not lose anything from the other two plots, because nothing about this directly affects anything that happens in the other two plots.
Well, supposedly it inspired Isaac to, you know, look into marriage.
Yeah, well, you know what? They could have had a throwaway line about how Bortis and Clyden renewed their vows.
Plus, I guess every time Clyden, the 2 or 3 times later, Clyden's going ape shit over Bortis is because they just renewed their vows.
Well, Clyden just came back, and so, you know.
Yeah, he's
I mean.
Oh, by the way, this also means
I'm agreeing with you. Yeah.
Right. And this also means with the sandwich that in less than 3 months, Clyden has come back from being a complete crazy neo-Nazi to now being completely welcomed back into the family and renewing vows.
See, you and I had that argument when the episode happened. I think the whole, like, almost losing his child and the impact and the weight of that hitting him,
but you don't think that there'd be some therapy realistic. Involved and take some time?
It's been 3 months. If he goes to therapy once a week, I don't need them wasting TV time showing me that. They waste enough TV time showing me other useless crap, you know.
I think it takes a little more than 3 months to heal that kind of wound.
Oh, well,
it's even less than 3 months, because it's 3 months to the second when the sandwich shows up.
Yeah.
All right.
I just can we like celebrate the fact that I'm just saying, can we celebrate the fact that Kadish was actually wrong for once, and we were right about the sandwich? I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, we'll get to the sandwich. All right, so then we get the real mission. Now that we've gone through the crap at the beginning, and which is that they've got a communication from Blobberty Blue 7 or whatever, and because I can't remember the name.
The Pure Democracy Planet.
Yes.
The social media planet, right?
The social media and capitalist planet, because capitalism is bad planet. Remember that.
Well, it was the pure democracy thing. It was the one where
Right.
Lamar got put on trial for
right, but it's
pumping
also
a
capitalism
statue.
is bad too. They threw that line in there too.
Did
Yeah, they did in the original episode. They had what's money? Oh, money. So
it's
yeah.
only been like 4 or 5 years since I saw it because
Yeah. So
I was just impressed with myself that I remembered it was the barista. I didn't remember her by name, but then when I saw her, I was like, "Oh, it's that chick."
Yeah, when they said her name and she was just calling them over like audio only, I was like, "Who is this again?"
yeah,
Yeah,
I
me
was like,
too.
I had no idea who they were talking about until
I
she
saw
showed up.
her. I was like, "Oh."
And she was also completely useless this entire episode.
Yeah, and there's
Yeah.
Ed looking like a doofus again, and so then there's Isaac, and then Isaac pops the question in front of everybody, and which makes Claire feel very awkward. So, what do you think about Isaac popping the question?
I mean, like, it was fine. Like, this entire section of the episode was just very slow and boring for me. Like, I just didn't care what was going on. Isaac's kind of logic made sense when Claire confronted him about, why he did what he did. And I did like the idea of, like, Isaac is not just marrying Claire. He's basically marrying, like, all of her ancestors because he's going to be around to take care of them. And Claire's just like, oh, like, that's an interesting thing I haven't thought of before.
Also,
there'll be a family Kaylon that will be guarding over her family for every generation, which would be a heck of an asset. I could see from Claire's perspective, it'd be very difficult to say no to that because you'd have a family guardian forever, assuming that Isaac doesn't get killed. But I don't understand Isaac's logic because even in Isaac's vows, he said that his only error in logic was shortly after they terminated their relationship. So Isaac didn't consider it an error in judgment when he was deceiving her all those years before that. He didn't consider it an error in judgment when he was deceiving the entire Orville crew before all that. None of that was an error in judgment.
He was following his orders, right?
I thought you were happily married and have like a kid. Like, when did you get so bitter and so cynical?
I'm not bitter. I'm just suggesting that Isaac is an idiot in this episode.
Nah, I don't see that. I don't.
No, because Isaac is supposed to be a perfect thinking machine, and he's not.
Yeah, but he's also like a child. Like you can have.
He's like a child, but he's got a flawless brain, and so he would not make a.
Yes, but he doesn't pick up on. He's like the poster child for people on the spectrum. I think he doesn't get nuance. He doesn't get. He knows.
I understand he doesn't get nuance, but he would not make a factual error. He would never make a factual error.
What factual error did he make?
When he said the only error in judgment that he's made is X, then what he's saying is that it was not an error in judgment that he lied to and betrayed the Union for years prior to.
I don't think that wasn't his judgment. That was some deep-seated, low-level programming that overtook his free will.
No, he was consciously doing
it. With you. Okay.
He was sending reports on a regular basis. He knew exactly what he was doing.
What is that? Do ex Hakana? That's funny.
Yeah,
hey,
Deus ex Hakana. Hey, how you doing, Jason?
Deus. Okay.
Yeah. But there's no way you could tell me that he didn't think that any of that was an error in judgment. If he thinks that it was an error in judgment, that and also if he's saying there was an error in judgment that he sided with primary when the Orville initially landed on Kaylon, then if he had not sided with Primary, the Kaylons would have just annihilated the Orville, and they'd all be dead.
You pick some really weird stuff to get hung up on, but anyway, that's fine.
Which means that even if he had consciously decided to side with the people of the Orville, the only logical choice would be to side with Primary and then wait for an opportunity to betray Primary.
So, Michael, I'll just say this. I feel like Isaac was perfectly congruent with how he's been in every other episode of the Orville in this episode. So I think you're getting a little bit too hung up on like story logic and character logic in this, because this is a show where people hit out in the event horizon of a black hole.
I know. I'm looking for logic, and
but
you keep bringing that up.
Isaac is perfectly congruent with how he's been this entire show. So I don't have a problem with him having like these like weird foibles that you point out.
Too bad his name wasn't Gibson. All right. Well, I don't think he would have proposed to, because he does not love her, and he even says he does not love her, and he would have looked up that the reason you marry someone is because you love them.
Well, but at the same time, that moment where he got the emotion chip or whatever it was, like he genuinely felt love for Claire.
But he said he didn't remember that.
Well, he didn't remember it, but the emotion chip basically amplified what was already there. And so in Isaac's own way, I feel like he does love Claire, but like he doesn't know how to process that love. And so like the whole marriage thing is an extension of him logically. This is what you do when you love someone. Therefore, I'm going to do it. Even though he, like when he spoke at the wedding, when he exchanged vows, I don't feel like he fully verbalized what it was, like his reasoning for doing what he did. But the subtext was there. So I don't have a problem with the way Isaac acted in this episode.
All right, and then we finally get the opening credits. So yeah,
which you can't skip on Hulu for some reason,
because Hulu hates people. And so then Claire tells off Isaac for proposing in front of people, even though that is kind of the tradition. Okay, and here is your favorite scene.
I know, I propose in front of an entire
ladies drinking wine.
Mm-hmm. Just what I want in my space adventure.
Yes, this is the very definition of the Orville right here. Ladies drinking wine.
I'm glad this shot has her foot hidden, because I'm telling you that
I gotta find
distracting.
I need to find a better shot here.
Yeah, go frame by frame, Michael, and let's see if we can spot this grotesque foot that Danny's obsessed with.
There we go.
Oh, there it is.
Look at that! Look at that toe. That toe, like I don't know. I don't know. Like those.
It doesn't look that
olive
big.
oil feet. She's got some olive oil feet, man. Those are just
whatever.
She's a size 11.
This shot. Well, she's a huge girl. I don't know if you know anything about.
Yeah, she's very tall.
Yeah.
She's like over 6 feet tall.
Yeah. She's big chick. But I'm just not into Amazon women. I don't know.
You're apparently not into feet either, or maybe you're too into feet.
Yeah, maybe that's. The
I
problem.
like womanly feet, petite feet, cute feet. She's got like
it's kind of like that
toes.
episode of Seinfeld, but instead of man hands, it's man feet.
Yeah, right?
She had man feet.
She had big old flippers. What's the deal? Yeah, so
her middle toe was bigger than her big toe.
So yes, this is why we all come to the Orville, to watch a bunch of girls drinking and just talking about boys.
Man advice.
Yeah, these. There's been too many of these this season.
There's been too many of these in any show that has any of these. And there she is describing the size of my penis.
It's okay to have scenes like this, but like they just drag them on so long. It's almost as long as Michael's penis. Yeah. So
what Anima quoted it earlier. Or go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say that there is an art to brevity, and part of telling good visual storytelling is knowing when to get into a scene and when to get out of a scene. And like, what's the timestamp on this? It's like 16 minutes. We've had 16 minutes of basically filler that could have easily been cut down to probably like 2 minutes if you're really thinking about it. And so like I just feel like I was bored.
Because at this point, all that's happened in the episode is Bortis and Clyden renewed their vows, and Isaac has popped the question.
And now we're about to get here. I found the line Anima quoted: "You have been most useful, sober man. You may go now." Like that. I feel like all of this was the setup for that.
Dismiss Ed. Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
But they still haven't gotten to that. See, we're just still talking.
Good God.
Still talking.
Also,
look at that toe. That's just not normal.
What is your problem with her toe, dude?
Look at that big it is so long. That's so weird. Ugh. God, sorry.
You also have to take into account like Kelly's advice, where she's like, if it was not Isaac, this would be my advice. And it's so cynical, anti-man stuff. And and then like the whole Ed coming in was like, bye-bye, sober man, type thing. It was just like there is still like this kind of subtext of, feminism throughout like all these episodes.
Here comes Ed. Yeah, there's a great face right there. Thief. Okay, finally that scene's over. And
this is where we get the call from what's her name, Lysella.
Yeah,
Lysella.
She wants
and
Asylum.
We also got the Gordon line about music that they showed us, like in the trailer for the series way back when.
So yeah, she's
on the bridge.
I was kind of hoping they were going to go back down.
You could have cut out this entire subplot, and
this is another
change in the episode.
Right. You could have just kept the marriage plot.
The whole point of this was better. The whole point of her story was just to explain to the audience why they have the prime directive, basically.
Right, which is something they've already done.
Well, also, did you guys notice, so like in every episode this season, most of the subplots were Kelly oriented, where she was like the one driving the plot forward, and Ed was just nowhere to be seen. Normally you would think Ed would be the one kind of like coaching this girl. Instead it's Kelly in this episode.
No, Ed's been this
Ed
entire
just kind of like
season.
Ed pops in and out for like a quick joke or something like that.
Yeah, even though Ed's the one that's supposed to make the decision, and then he goes, "Well, Kelly, what would you do if it was up to you?" That was his big moment of making a decision. Well, Kelly, what would you do?
I don't know if that was just a practical thing because Seth MacFarlane probably had a bunch of different stuff going on, so he just scaled back his involvement in the season.
Yeah, but he had like 8 lines in this episode. It was
but I mean, like I could see like if there was a practical reason why they kind of truncated Ed's involvement in all these episodes, but at the same time, it's like he's supposed to be the lead. So you would think that he would be kind of taking charge some of these subplots, but he doesn't.
No, Ed's character was a huge disappointment to me this entire season, and so was Kelly. Like they took away from Ed, and they just kind of like, I don't know if you guys will get this reference, but this season of Kelly felt like 2016 Roman Reigns to me. It's just like they're shoving her down my throat, and I don't like it and I don't want it. You know what I mean?
Well, honestly, yeah. If they're going to emasculate Ed to the extent that they did in this season, I would have been happier if in episode 2 they just turned Ed into a spider demon and gave us a new captain, and then just kept Seth on as an executive producer, because I really would rather have a captain that's actually on the show, because having this character that's only got 10 lines per episode and he's constantly just the butt of jokes is no thank you. And like in this episode, it's the worst of the bunch, but it was just, insulting to me.
This entire season has been pretty insulting, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But anyway, so she's telling everybody, I ain't going back. And when she's talking about how things have gotten worse, I really wanted them to go down to the planet. I wanted to see, whoa, what's happened? That I was like, oh, okay, so we're going to go back down to the social media planet. Cool. And nope, we're just going to focus the rest of the episode on the wedding, folks. Well done, Orville.
I mean, I'm a sucker for the Claire and Isaac stuff, so.
Yeah, I know. You're the only person that loves the Claire stuff, but on this panel, I mean, not the only person, of course. But I was, like I said, I thought that, hey, at least now they're introducing the real plot, because I didn't think the episode was just going to be about a wedding. I thought that the wedding was going to be the B plot, and this was going to be the A plot.
Oh, whatever. You owe me money because you thought there was going to be a throuple with Kelly and Bortis and Clyden.
Yeah. No, I don't owe you money. Happen. You owe me less. That's
fair enough. Fair enough.
If we get
although Mercer was dropping
the Kelly throuple will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
That's true.
Mercer was dropping F-bombs last night. You didn't say a word to him.
Did he? I didn't even notice.
Yeah, a few times. Yeah.
You mean on the live stream, not the show, right?
No, on a live stream. Yeah.
Oh, well, Mercer was drunk off his...
He was inebriated last night, yeah.
Yeah, I thought you meant like Captain Mercer. Yeah, no.
There was one F-bomb in this episode, wasn't there? I feel like there was.
Was there?
I don't remember there being an F-bomb.
Yeah.
All right, so she's saying how, oh, no, I can't go back. I need asylum. Yeah, please help me. Please, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you are my only hope. And there she's demonstrating her acting ability to Seth.
Yeah, she's auditioning for a series regular for season.
Yeah, to Seth. She's saying, see, I could do it. I could be a regular just like Charlie.
I'm going to
keep this
my
entire
mouth shut because my mother's watching.
This entire subplot was just bad. Like, it didn't need to be here. Like, she was so wishy-washy. She's like, I want asylum. Oh, but now I want to save my planet. And like, you could see where they were going with it. It's like, oh, she's going to try to steal the technology. I'm actually surprised that they stopped her from like going back to the planet with like that technology, because like you just knew that she was going to do that and it was going to cause some type of problem.
Oh,
it should have been the crux of the episode.
I'm skipping a bunch of nothing. That's the problem.
There was
nothing
a lot of
happening.
stuff. There was a lot of funny stuff you just skipped, but that's fine.
There was funny gags here and there, but there was nothing.
Speaking of gags, can you gag that dog of yours? My God, that thing is.
That's my wife's dog. I'm not going to gag my wife's dog.
What kind of animal abuser are you, Danny? Jeez.
Yeah, really. Jeez.
Go look at some pictures of feet if you don't like it.
Yeah, you want me to bring up the picture of the feet again? I'll do that, man. I'm going to save that picture of the feet and bring it up every time.
Frame it, and like you just call it up every time Danny's being bad.
Her feet are so gross. I'm sorry. I mean, although who am I to talk? She probably looked at me and it's like, oh, your whole.
Bird says things have gotten worse since 2017 because Trump lost. That's what's happened. Wow.
Well, my bank account and the price of gas has certainly gotten worse, but whatever.
All right. So anyway, but yeah, that's the problem. Like all that stuff you say I was skipping, nothing happens. It's just,
there was the funny scene where Lamar gives the terrible advice,
Yeah, but I'm just saying nothing happens.
Here's the thing though, Lamar's advice was not terrible. Like it was actually very valid advice.
Well, depends on how you feel about ethics.
Well, but the whole thing is like, because he was giving it to a robot, it wasn't good advice. But like if he were giving it to another human, yeah, that's good advice. You don't want to marry the first person that you sleep
Well,
with. You know?
again, it depends on your sense of ethics. Some people actually don't agree with that, but the problem there is that because some people do marry the first person they've slept with, and they're very happy for their lives. But
Hey, bro, we're not talking about you. You don't have to get defensive, okay? It's okay. It's okay.
No, but my point
just because
is,
you've only slept with your wife, and Kadish and I are whores that have slept with over 1,000 women, Wilt Chamberlain style apiece, doesn't mean you got to get all defensive. I mean, have you seen Kadish's girl? He could have any woman he wants. He's a stud that used to work in Hollywood, right?
I don't care who you've slept with.
Just I don't care who you've slept with. What does it matter? Like, the point is,
my
it
point
wasn't even just
is
the sex
that,
part. He was just like,
my point is that
how do you know?
My point is that I'm not agreeing carte blanche with what Kadish was saying, that it's good advice to tell somebody to sleep around before they get married.
He didn't say sleep around, though.
It wasn't sleep around.
Well, I'm saying, to that you should sleep with different people before you get married.
No,
I don't
said
necessarily.
You should date different people.
Well, no, he specifically was talking about having sex with different.
No, I think
he might have implied it, but he said, look, you know, it helps to date other people to make sure that you're actually making a wise decision. I happen to agree with that.
Yeah,
I don't think.
Well, I think that
you don't know what you don't know. You know what I mean?
Right, but I think that obviously you should. There's a whole courtship thing where you need to make sure you're with the right person, but I don't think that you should just test the waters, so to speak.
I think it was bad advice for Isaac.
Yeah,
I don't think it was bad advice in general.
Yeah.
Anyway, rather than argue about personal ethics, let's move on. So Isaac does give the bad advice. Isaac immediately but you see, the reason I say nothing happens is because Isaac then immediately goes to Kelly. Kelly then tells Claire. Claire then chews out Lamar, and nothing happens. Right? It's all a big hubbub about nothing. Okay, it's a big circle of nothing.
Yeah, you could have cut out that entire section. And
and that's the problem. If you can cut out the entire section of the show and make no difference to the plot, then it was an unnecessary part of the show.
I mean, haven't you ever seen Seinfeld? I mean, the whole series is
This isn't Seinfeld.
Part of the show.
Yeah, Seinfeld also was an hour and a half long.
Yeah,
this is true. Yeah, touche.
Right, and this isn't, you don't see every time the Orville flies by, you don't hear, which.
Although that probably wouldn't be.
Honestly, I just wish the show was about Gordon. I just want to see Gordon.
That would be a better show. Yeah, this was the adventures of Gordon in space.
Yeah, okay, so I care nothing about Claire. I don't care about her.
Claire
family.
is so beautiful. Look at her.
I don't care.
I don't. You know what? I'm not saying Claire's not beautiful. I'm saying I don't care about her. She's not the most interesting person on the ship. Gordon is. Gordon is the most interesting person on the ship. Claire is the least interesting person on the ship. Well, maybe Kelly is the least interesting person on the ship, but Claire is the second least interesting.
Tala is pretty.
Certainly got the least interesting feet. I'll be. I
thought you,
considering how obsessed you are with her feet.
Yeah, I figure you find her feet very interesting, just not.
Yeah.
So this is a thing I learned in improv.
Her feet are living rent free in your head right now.
They are. This is the thing I learned in improv. I pick one thing and then obsess.
Hey, Danny, don't imagine her feet on your forehead right now.
It's like,
can't run away, Daddy.
I gotta go take care of something.
Yeah. He's right now. He's getting the lube out.
Yeah, he's pulling a Tarantino.
Come on, Danny. Come on.
No, actually, I gotta run to the bathroom real quick. I was trying to tell you that earlier.
Can we just get past this? Get past this.
All right. So while he's relieving himself in the bathroom.
He's Geologia-ing.
Yeah, sure he is. He's Geologia-ing. And funny, Cece's going to be like, what happened to all the lotion, honey?
I'm going to say this. Cece must have pristine feet. Otherwise, Danny would not be.
I feel so sorry for Cece.
Next time I see her, I'll be like, so, you got good feet, huh?
You should. All right, so
boring.
Boring. Yeah.
Boring.
This was an interesting makeup job / I don't know how much of this is makeup and how much might have been computer enhanced, but
I think everything above the lower mouth, it was probably CG.
Yeah, I don't know, but it looks pretty good.
Yeah. I like that he had 3 mouths.
Yeah. So all your tongues are feeling this way? Yeah. And so that's where, and this is where she tells off Lamar.
Mm-hmm. Which, again, didn't really matter.
No. And then this is her showing her the holodeck.
Yeah.
And then, okay, and this is where Bortis bullies his way into being the best man.
Yeah. This was a pretty good scene, I thought.
All right, so yeah, this is where Primary.
Yeah, and this is where I thought the episode picked up, because after this point, I felt like it was actually a pretty entertaining episode. But everything up to that point, I was like, man, you could have cut out so much of this.
I will say, yeah, I'll agree to some of that, but I still don't like the fact that, again, I think that Isaac is being a moron, and that Isaac is making all the preparations for the ceremony. Isaac knows how big the simulator room is. He knows how many people it can hold. And so why didn't he tell Primary to only send 100 units? Why did he agree to having the entire Kaylon armada show up?
I think it was just, he was looking at it as the invitation aspect, not actually accommodating them. So, I can just chalk this up to Isaac not being familiar with how weddings work. So, I mean, I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, to me that, at first I was like, okay, maybe they were having, at first I didn't realize they were having the ceremony on the holodeck. I thought they were going to Earth, because I thought that's why they were worried about it causing an incident.
It would have made more sense if the entire Kaylon fleet showed up at Earth. That would have been hilarious.
Right. And so I thought
that's kind of where I thought they were going.
Right. And so if it was on Earth, then could you imagine the shot of a couple hundred people there for Claire, and the entire population of the Kaylon homeworld on Isaac's side of the aisle?
Yeah.
And that would be one of the most insane CGI shots ever.
If I had been involved in writing this episode, I would have spent the first 10 minutes setting up the wedding, and getting to this point where the Kaylon are invited, and then there's this miscommunication that actually reinflames some type of conflict that the Orville people have to sort out, and it was all the wedding was the catalyst of it. And I just think that there was a great opportunity here to tell a really fascinating, tense, fun story that Brandon Braga just didn't take.
Right. Yeah, there was no tension in this episode at all. That's the problem, is that I remember even all the way back in high school, my drama teacher, one of the first things he taught us is there's no such thing as drama without conflict. And honestly, there's no real conflict in this episode.
Yep.
Unless you count Bortis and Clyden.
And it didn't really do, typically for a season finale, you want the season finale to kind of wrap up all of the threads, or most of the threads that the season sets up.
Which they didn't wrap up any.
going into the next season, you can kind of start from either a clean slate, or you can carry over some of the more pressing storylines into the next season. I was actually kind of surprised at how little this season finale wrapped things up.
Right,
there's so much stuff that's still hanging out there.
Yeah, half the Orville crew is still spider people. We still have Ed Mercer's daughter out there.
You have the Krill war crime trial still looming.
Yeah, we still have the Krill leader.
The Moklin Krill alliance.
Yeah, the Krill leader is still in chains somewhere on Earth, or pending trial. The Moklin Krill alliance, which is threatening war. The tension.
Remember that female-centric race that they tried to...
Yeah, whatever happened to them?
Yeah.
Are they joining the Union or not? What's the deal with them? Like, wouldn't it be interesting if they joined the Moklin Krill alliance? How would that change the balance of power? And so, like, what an interesting dichotomy would that be, to have a Krill-led trifecta of powers, where the Krill were the leader of a masculine culture and a feminine culture. That would actually be kind of interesting.
Honestly, they treated this season as if they were guaranteed a next season.
Yeah,
where they had the luxury to kind of meander and have these like one-off like bottle episodes and stuff like that. When the reality is, it's like, this is the last season. Like, I haven't seen any evidence that we're getting a new season of the Orville at any point.
I would say, if and my thought on this is that if we don't hear anything at D23, it's probably not happening.
Honestly, we would have heard before now, I think, if it was going to happen. But
I figured that before, Disney we know could be holding off to throw people a big thing.
They've struck the sets, though. The actors have gone on to other things. Seth MacFarlane has a development deal at Peacock that he's thrown. I know.
I'm just saying, if they don't do it,
all
at
the
D23,
signs for all the signs for not getting renewed are there.
Right.
Like, I just don't think it's going to happen. And they really should have treated this like they should have treated this as a final season and set up so like it's not a definitive ending, but it was a appropriate ending that could have gone on to like a new season.
Right.
But they didn't. They chose not to do that because I don't know why. Like, I question the entire strategy behind the thinking of this season. Like, they had 10 episodes to basically do whatever they wanted, and this is what they chose to do. It doesn't make any sense. There's one episode this season, which was the previous episode, that advanced the overarching story of the Orville meaningfully. And
by
everything else was
Kaylon as a member of the Union.
Yeah, everything else was just kind of filler. Like, didn't really matter.
And the funny thing is, to have the finale be a filler episode is just that's just crazy.
I mean, that's very surprising.
All right,
everything
Danny.
From this point on was more entertaining, but it was also boring. Like, this entire episode is just like, I feel like I wasted my time watching it, honestly.
Right. Random Horizons is what Jason's calling it. Cinnabon thinks it's more likely to come back as a few streaming movies a year rather than getting a new season. I don't think that we would get movies because that's kind of what this season was. And I think that honestly, I think that it's more likely that the Orville is dead, but their only chance is D23 right now. If Disney doesn't do a Hail Mary, hey, there's going to be an Orville season 4 at D23, then it's over. But I know I love PJ Orville Nation. Love him to death. I think he's a great guy.
PJ's great.
Yeah, but I know he's absolutely convinced to his core that there's going to be a season 4. But I think he's just just drinking those bittersweet tears of hope. He really loves the Orville, and he just really, really wants there to be a season 4, and he's just,
Yeah. The worst thing that ever happened to the Orville was Disney buying Fox. If this was still like a broadcast Fox show, I think that it would be going strong. I think that we'd be guaranteed a 4th season. But because it's behind a paywall, because it is bloated and the storytelling went off a cliff this season, I think it lost a lot of fans. I think it lost a lot of momentum. I would have stopped watching after the 3rd or 4th episode if I wasn't doing these like live streams about it.
And
So,
Joe Biden just tipped $1. Thank you, Joe Biden.
yeah, but with inflation, that's like 2 cents.
Yeah. So, remember Joe Biden, inflation, buddy. Says, I love the one-sided negative debate. You guys should do a congressional committee hearing. Hail Karoga, number 22. Well, Joe, you got to remember, we're actually not a one-sided negative debate. It's just that the person who is pro-Orville is currently, wiping his tears of regret into the toilet, apparently.
He's eating an egg salad sandwich while looking at pictures of feet.
Yeah.
Right now. So.
And And LDG says the season finale of Lost was better, which Ouch. I've never seen the Lost, but I've heard all sorts of stories about how that show ended.
I used to be such a big fan of that show, and then when the final season came along, it's Game of Thrones season 8 level bad.
Well, you see, I only watched Game of Thrones season 1 because the last episode of season 1 pissed me off so much.
You've heard about season 8, right?
I've heard that it sucked really bad.
Yeah, it ruined the franchise, basically.
Right.
Speaking of ruining franchises, can we get through the rest of this episode?
Well, I'm trying to let Danny get a shot at, making some commentary, but
come in.
He's really enjoying it. He's really enjoying thinking about those feet.
Well, Cece came home, so he's getting.
I mean, you notice as soon as I told him to think about those feet, he had to go and
I'll be back in 20 minutes.
He's like really working it right now. I hope he's not like, give himself a rash or anything. So here we have primary accepting the wedding invitation. And I kind of like their conversation because primary had never heard of a wedding before. And I like the fact that the first thing he thinks of is enslavement.
Yeah. Which he's kind of right about, considering like once Claire dies, Isaac's basically a slave to her bloodline, right?
But that's voluntary.
Yeah, that's voluntary. But at the same time, one thing that I hated about this whole part of the episode is that in the episode From Unknown Graves, where we have the Kaylon who has the emotion programming. So I honestly thought that where they were going with that was that they were going to kind of upload the emotion software to the Kaylon collective, and the originals were all going to get emotions, and then the upgrades were going to stay emotionless, and it was going to create some type of civil war amongst the Kaylons, which would have led to the Union teaming up with the emotion bots versus the greater threat of the emotionless upgrade bots. And they never did anything with that. They never did anything with the Kaylon emotion programming. I would have thought that would have played a bigger role going forward, because they really set it up, but again, it's another ball that the season dropped.
They certainly did. But and so after he explains to primary what a wedding actually is, he agrees to send all the Kaylon except for a minimal defense force. Yeah. And then here we have Kelly explaining to what's her name how the warp core works, or the quantum core, or whatever. The not a warp core. That's a wonderful look on her face. She looks like she's eating the quantum core right there. And so and then
exposition, boring.
She's talking about how great the technology would be on her home world, and Kelly's trying to explain to her that, hey, the technology wouldn't make everything great. You got to have the people ready for it, blah, 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 blah. And, you got to be ready for it. You would think, and I think that's a good point, is that Gorilla points out that, being that close to a giant miniature star, wouldn't they be dying of radiation poisoning? You would think, but, don't try to be logical.
So it might be shielded.
Yeah. And then there's Gordon getting kind of grumpy about what happened.
But this is probably the best scene in the episode.
I agree. This is the best scene in the entire episode. Gordon is very angry about what Bortis did. Ed, of course, looking like an idiot drinking his coffee, as he seems to do throughout this episode, just standing around and drinking coffee. And Gordon still mad, and Lamar asking him an interesting question, if he's more mad about this or the Kaylon invasion, and he said he was more mad about this. And that was interesting. And it's funny, because at first I was like, really? But then I thought, the way that we as humans are so petty, I actually buy that, because we let little things get under our skin. And so we would let a little thing like having some jerk take the spot of best man bother us more than another country invading our land.
Well, also it was like, Gordon considered Bortis a friend, and he kind of screwed him over.
Yeah.
So I think that bothered him.
Yeah. I think Gordon should have been more mad that Ed, erased his family from existence than Bortis swooping in.
Well, he doesn't remember it, right?
But then the greatest moment in the history of science fiction happens.
Yes.
Yeah. There
yes.
There it is.
But what's funny is like that sandwich was happy. Just a matter replicated sandwich. It's like he could have gotten that at any point from a matter replicator.
But the point was, he said, and he even said it 3 months ago, that 3 months from now, that sandwich is going to appear, and it's going to be a nice surprise.
Yeah, and he was like so happy when he got it, and then he took a bite.
If this had been set up in episode 1 of the season, I would have given it much more respect.
And like if he said, "Hey, send it a year from now,"
Although I do love a good egg salad sandwich, I will say that stuff is good.
Sure, nothing beats a good egg salad sandwich. But yeah, that was an absolutely wonderful moment.
Beautiful payoff.
Yeah, that was one of the best payoffs of anything they've done on the series. I gotta give them props for that.
But it kind of goes counter to the episodic nature of the season, where it's like you need to have seen that episode where they send it into the future in order to appreciate that payoff.
Yes.
And like you said before, it's like they tried doing episodic and serialized, like
they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. Yeah,
and they just failed on both accounts. And this is just a further example of that.
Mm-hmm. The problem is that the melancholy side of it is that it also reminds me of the fact that they killed his family. And that really made me angry. But I still love the joke.
Yeah, it was a good joke.
But the fact that they wiped out his family from existence.
I just can't. I get my daughter this weekend, I can't wait to just show her that clip because that's all she cared about. Because she watched that episode with me. She's like, "What happened to the sandwich?"
Yeah. And just a quick props to the visual effects artists on this show. I gotta say that the front half of the Orville is just beautiful. As absolutely stupid as the back half of the ship looks, I love the front half of the ship. So whenever they show this angle of the ship, I think it looks great.
Kind of from that angle, it kind of looks like Voyager's saucer section.
Yeah,
yeah.
Like it's a
Voyager
smaller.
is probably my favorite ship.
It's a weird ship design. Like if it was missing the middle engine part in the back, and it just had like the two top and bottom ones, I think that would be a more practical design.
Right, because like flying into that landing bay makes no sense.
Yeah,
You have to dodge the pylons to get to the landing bay.
yeah.
But yeah, the engine design makes no sense. But yeah, it's.
I mean, this is one of those sci-fi shows where it's just like, don't think about it too much.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's always been that way.
There's still like a good 30 minutes of this episode left.
Oh God.
So yeah, I got so I got my Orville right here, and I just I think that as soon as it starts flaying out like that, I think it looks dumb. But the kind of tadpole look of the front, I think looks good. And
It kind of looks like a female big toe, don't you think?
very much so.
A little
Yeah,
bit
I heard you
crooked.
guys while I was in the
Little
restroom.
long.
I heard you guys. I was listening.
Yeah. You went through a lot of lotion.
Yeah, I'm surprised you had time to listen to us.
I use baby oil, not lotion. Come on, get it right.
Whatever. All right.
Better for the
So
skin.
surprisingly, women sitting around talking without alcohol.
Another ladies' wine night. Yeah,
Yeah.
little sewing circle.
Yeah. And so then here she is with the matter replicators saying, hey, come on, let's give them matter replicators. And then once again, we got to give the speech about, why we can't give everybody matter replicators. And there is Kelly with her condescending look. Now we got to be good.
Yeah, you have to completely accept socialism before you're ready for these wonderful technological
and
marvels.
it's and you know what pisses me off is it's always Kelly to give these speeches, but it's also always Kelly that screws things up by breaking the rules. And so it's like, Kelly,
rules
why
don't
don't
apply to the superior women.
Why don't you follow your own dang rules for a couple of minutes so that, maybe you won't F everything up? Just a little heads up there, Kelly. Sorry. So Kelly being all pompous and everything, talking about how great they are. All right. And so now here's the Las Vegas lounge that they made in the holodeck. I don't care if it's whatever they call it. It's a holodeck. All the guys are bored. And then out comes
Elvis.
Yes. And so I gotta say, I cracked up seeing Bortis dressed as Elvis.
I was expecting a little bit better singing from him.
Yeah, but I did just the wig. Oh man, the wig does it for me. I like that wig. Of course, Bortis did the classic "You Will Be Silent," and then of course the girls are actually having fun because the girls are good at their party, and there's their version of Isaac. Because of course we need to objectify Isaac.
Oh yeah.
But this once again shows men are idiots, women are smart, even when it comes to just partying.
Yeah, a proper setup would have been like Gordon having a plan to like really have a huge bachelor party for Isaac with like hookers and blow and like all this other stuff, and then like Bortis comes along and subverts that. You know, like it would have been like a better setup for that, I think. But with this one, it was very obvious that like it's okay for women to do the objectifying, but if it's men, you have to play it off as a joke for them being miserable at a party. So, I mean, it was par for the course for this season. I didn't think that this was very egregious because like it's your typical kind
right.
of,
but at the same time, you know, people would have found it offensive if the guys' party had Claire stripping up on stage.
Jesus, are you kidding me? I would have loved that. That would have been awesome.
I know you would have loved it, Danny, but a lot of people would have found it offensive.
Or you have like a really like disgusting looking alien come out that like the guy who set up the party was like really into, and everyone else is just like, like
as long as she hides her
toes. A lot of ways you
toes.
could have done it.
Yeah.
A lot of ways you could have done it.
That face.
Oh yeah, there's the tassels just for you.
See, go back to that. I got to put that in my spank bank. That's what I'm going to pretend I see every time I unzip my pants.
The tassels?
No,
That's
Claire's face a
funny.
second ago.
Oh no, the robot tassels. That's
No, the
what
robot. So you want the feet and the tassels.
You guys just don't listen. That's fine. It's okay.
That's
Sure.
what you just said.
No, I was talking about Claire's face a second ago. Her face was just like, she looked like she was ready to take one.
Yeah. And you see, so this is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said, if they did it the exact opposite way, it would be offensive.
Offensive to who?
Also, I get the whole like romance angle here, but I've always found it weird that like anyone would find that incarnation of Isaac sexually arousing in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
I mean, he's got the buttless chaps and the nipple tassels and stuff like that, but still, it's a Kaylon. It's like that's what you're having sex with.
Well, I guess that's what she likes. I mean, I assume they don't just go to the holodeck to have sex.
I mean, Bortis had a whole episode about his holodeck orgies.
Yeah. So, of course, the guys are still bored out of their mind. Next day, she's like, I want to go home, but I'm really going to secretly steal stuff, and nobody's figured that out. And then here comes the
Annie's
infamous dress.
scene.
The infamous dress scene. And
that blue dress was horrid, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, I'm an idiot because I'm a guy.
I like them both. I mean, we've all been there.
I haven't.
I have. For sure.
Not on dresses. If my wife says, "Would you like this one or this one?" I'll say, "Well, that one," unless I genuinely do like them both. In which case, I'll say, "Yeah, both of them look good."
See, I always feel like it's traps. I'm like, oh, they both look great on you, honey. Whichever one you prefer. That is no help. Well, yeah, I don't want to, because inevitably, whichever one I say, really, I like the other one better. You know, I'm just like, because women, you know. Anyway, I just got a bunch of fans there.
You don't know how to pick women.
Did you hear that, honey?
Huh?
Well, if that's how they react to you.
Mm-hmm.
But like in this case, I would say that dress looks better.
The white dress definitely looked better.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Because, you know, one word, cleavage.
No, not the cleavage. I think just the overall look of the dress.
Well, the other dress was really like hid the cleavage.
It just looks awkward on her. So yeah. I think the fall of the dress is much better.
Hey, Michael, just FYI, I got a heart out in about 10 minutes.
All right. Oh, we're almost to the end here. This shot really pissed me off because we see the fighter that was used in one episode.
Well, technically 2 episodes.
Well, they tested it in one and they used it in one.
Yeah, that was disappointing.
Pissed me off All right, so a little girl sneaks out with a comm scanner with the blueprints for a bunch of stuff, but in her defense, no weapons because she's good. But since she got busted, she decides she wants to go ahead and stay on the Orville, and they all say, "A-okay." They should have said, "Heck no! Here's your up-down button. Have a nice day." I mean, honestly, that's what they should have said. Sorry, you ain't getting no asylum.
Well, really, they should have never taken her in the first place, but whatever.
No, they could have granted her asylum. It's a hostile environment. But then after the first thing she does is try to steal from them.
Well,
it'd be like, okay, sorry, you know what? We're deporting your butt. Have a nice day.
You can't say on one hand it's a hostile environment, then on the other where you have Kelly's like they have to find their own way. They have to go through this phase that they're going through right now, and eventually they'll find enlightenment. And if Kelly really believes that, then she should have been like, hey, you need to be a part of your people's journey. You don't need to be taking this shortcut. Like I don't know. I don't really care, so I don't want to harp on it too much. But I didn't like that part of this. Like they could have cut her completely out. Personally.
Well, I know they could have cut her and Bortis out, and the episode would have been fine. And then, of course, now she shows her, look at the pretty people, and they went boom. Because prime directive. And now I'm going to give you the same speech that I gave someone else in the first season because, you know, I don't have original dialogue to give you.
Oh my God. Did anybody else notice that at the wedding? Because like Kadish and I both have to go in about 6 minutes.
Well, I'm trying to hurry.
They totally verbatim. It was straight out of Balance of Terror. Did you notice that?
Terror, yeah, I did.
Lifted straight. I loved it. I was like,
word for word.
Yeah.
All right. So the Kaylon speech,
Mercer's wedding speech was right from Kirk doing the wedding.
Yeah. Kaylon fleet shows up. Primary comes over. All the Kaylons look the same.
Again, with that many ships, how did the Kaylon just not wipe out all life in the universe when they were on the warpath?
Right.
Like, seriously. Like if that was the size of their fleet and they moved as one, like there's no way anyone would have been able to stop them.
Yeah. Plot. So then we have Ty the ring boy. We have people come down, and then here comes the bride. Blah blah blah. Do you take the? And by the way, I wonder why the Kaylon didn't object to him looking like a human during the wedding.
Yeah, I thought it would have been cool.
The custom.
He should have looked like himself, to be honest. She's not married.
They really want to give the guy playing Isaac some screen time this season.
Yeah, but I think they gave him a little too much.
I think it would have been cool if like he was his normal self, and then like as she goes to take his hand, then he turns into the human. Like I think that would have been a neat touch, something like that.
Yeah, and then you see his mechanical penis come out and.
What the hell is with
shoot
you, bro?
Oil at her and sorry, that's just what you like. All right, so does Balance of Terror thing. They play jazz. What's her face shows up, and then Gordon sings a song. The end. All right, so
I will say Gordon's speech was pretty funny.
Yes,
had some good jokes in there.
Although the canned laughter was a little too much for me because it felt like.
And sorry, Gorilla, there probably will not be a next season. All right, so real quick, Kadish, score out of 10, and odds of there being a season 4.
Out of 10, I'd give this a 5. It's right down the middle for me. It's very meh. First half was extremely boring. Second half was a little bit interesting. Terrible season finale, though. And even worse, series finale. I think that there's a 0% chance that we're going to get a season 4.
Danny.
Cue the Vince McMahon music. And for those of you who don't know what that means, it goes, no chance. That's what you got. No chance in hell. Because there's no chance in hell this is getting season 4. And it sucks because unlike Kadish, I loved this episode, and I was like, oh man, if they'd have done this the whole time, they totally would have got a season 4, because this just felt like the first 2 seasons to me. Like I really, really enjoyed this episode. I do agree it's a terrible season/series finale. I get why they probably thought they were geniuses for it, because it's like, oh, well, it's a love letter, and if this is the end, it's a nice ending, happy ending. And if it's not the end, it's open enough to where blah, blah, blah. But it was just like this felt like, this should have been like, if it's only 10 episodes, this should have been like episode 4 or 5, type of thing. And it really should have been, just for the tone and the humor and stuff, because all of that was severely lacking in the previous episodes. They're just, I don't know what the hell they were thinking this season. I did enjoy this episode though, and if I had to show anybody one of the episodes from season 3, this would be the one that I show them. Because of the way I've been grading them, you guys can give me grief, but this is my favorite of the season. So because I've been grading that way, I'd have to give this at least 8.5.
All right. So I would say that the humor on this is a big plus. The nothingness on this episode is a big minus. So I'm going to go right down the middle as well, as I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. And I'm going to say never say never. So I'm going to give them a 1% chance of getting a season 4. But I do think that goes down to a 0.5% chance if there's no announcement at D23.
There's no, if they've really struck the sets, which I've been looking for, I haven't found any confirmation of that. But if they've really done that, this show's over. Like right. Those sets.
Well, I'm just saying that, never say never, because, Dude,
did you pause it on her skank ass feet on purpose? Like, what the heck? And I just noticed it. You're killing me.
Anyway,
guys, you better believe that's going to be the background from now on.
I got to get going, or Jude's going to kill me. So.
All right. So next week we'll talk about I Am Groot, and we'll talk about maybe a retrospect on this whole season if I Am Groot doesn't carry us through an episode.
And if you don't finish this episode, we're going to be talking about how our got murdered.
So have a good one, Kadish. Have a good one, Dork Knight. All of you. Remember, you are the salt of the earth. But I am the salty trekker, and we are out of here because these two guys just, can't, book time properly.
Because we have
jerks.